If you watch my channel and have functioning eyes or ears, a tall order I know, you're aware I like Warhammer 40k. I'll admit I don't like it as much as fantasy, so crucify me in the name of the Emperor if you must, but I like the setting a lot. But I have a confession to make. It's
hard for me to decide whether I enjoy 40k more or fantasy more, because they kind of scratch a different itch. I suppose in the grand scheme of things, like both sci-fi and fantasy are my favorite genres. Maybe currently I prefer fantasy a little bit more, but I don't know, maybe next month I might transition back to just loving a sci-fi more than fantasy. It's good that we have both though.
Not the sci-fi setting I fanboy for the most. That distinction goes to Halo. And you know what? I haven't gushed over it nearly enough yet. So welcome to the closest thing I'm ever gonna do to a lore video. Probably. It's easy to say that now when I haven't yet run out of factions to analyze, but I digress. And I'll be honest, if you're the kind of Warhammer fan who gets conniptions over someone saying another faction in another universe could stand strong in the setting, you're gonna dislike this video. You're really gonna dislike this video.
Oh wait, this I'm pretty sure this image from the Xero sequence, right? That was from another video that we checked out from Pancreas about like sci-fi universes that could beat Warhammer 40k, and this one was insane. But personally, I kind of enjoy seeing these, I guess, crossovers of different series and coming up with new theories as to how they'd interact with each other. I know a lot of people can get very, I guess, pissy over power scaling, but I just view it as a fun little concept that everybody can enjoy. And I mean, like, you can accept whatever canon that you want. It's your enjoyment of the story. But obviously, a lot of people like to be extremely vocal about their very, very negative opinions.
Also, don't read the Xero sequence books. So in a mini-series of me showing my favoritism for my favorite sci-fi franchise, allow me to tell you why the Covenant would make a fantastic faction should they suddenly become a part of the 40k franchise.
On the blood of our fathers, on the blood of our sons, we swore to uphold the Covenant, even to our dying breath.
And before you say anything, yes, I'm aware this would never happen. This is just my wet dream of two franchises I love colliding. So for those of you who don't know much about Halo and the Covenant, first of all, shame on you. But the Covenant are a coalition of alien races brought together by a shared religion and the belief that an ancient race known as the Forerunners were gods. It is said that the Forerunners ascended onto a greater plane of existence via the Halo rings, leaving their stuff behind for their successors, who naturally were the Covenant, which is not at all what actually happened, but
yeah. Believing in one thing and reality being another thing is quite common in, well, basically everything.
People believing in a false religion is nothing new to 40k. Remember how the Emperor said he wasn't a god and religion is wrong? How's that working out for them? Some are more zealous in this belief. The elites follow it pretty closely, the prophets are fanatics, and the jackals follow it because the other option is death for being pirates. Either way, they have the military might to keep everyone in check, so there's no staying on the path of heresy forever. Kind of like the Imperium again, actually. So with the important background said and done, why do I think they'd fit in? How do I think they'd fit in? Let's do how first, because it's quicker. The Covenant could fulfill the role of generic alien species. This isn't because I think the Covenant is inherently generic. Not at all, I fucking love the Covenant. But compare them to everyone in 40k. All the Xenos have a shtick. The Eldars are the various flavors of elf, the Orcs are, well, orcs. The Necrods are undead space Egyptians in space, who are also Terminators, a lot going on there. The Tyranids are a hive mind with a species-wide vor fetish. And even the Tau, who are supposedly non-magical and somewhat normal aliens, have a remarkable tendency towards scientific progress and general dynamism in responding to threats. And weeaboo robots. Can't forget those. But the Covenant?
Tangensalba Pancreas is very based, as we all probably know.
There's no space magic here. There's no intense focus on technology, although their tech is nothing to look down at that. We'll get to that. They would do a great job at contrasting how batshit insane everyone around them is by being relatively normal for a sci-fi setting. They're a collection of alien races that relentlessly attack humanity. That's their shtick as a whole, even if the individual races have more to them.
That is kind of funny how they would be just like the most normal aliens in Warhammer 40k. Like, their goal is quite simple, comparatively. And considering the kind of tech that they brought when they were going after Reach, I feel like they do okay in the 40k universe. It's not really the kind of tech that could do an entire Exterminatus, right, in just one go. Because I think they basically glassed Reach, but the humans were able to fight back to a certain extent.
40k, that's the default for almost every Xenos faction. I mean, hell, you almost want to join them over anyone else. Yeah, they hate human life, but who doesn't in 40k? Sure, they have a somewhat oppressive religion, but compare that to the Imperium, who have an incredibly oppressive religion. Sure, they don't have space magic, but in 40k, is that really a bad thing? Not having to worry about getting your asshole shredded by demons for the crime of thinking too hard? So that's how the Covenant could fit in. They could be the perfect race to highlight just how batshit insane 40k is by their comparative normalcy. Also, the names used for their shit is absolutely the stuff you'd expect to see in 40k. Their calendar has a time period called the 23rd Age of Doubt. The ships are all named things like the Shadow of Intent or the Long Night of Solace. Perfect for the setting. Anyway.
Yeah. The naming sense of a lot of things in the Warhammer universe are quite simple, and it's very nerdy, but it works. And honestly, I kind of prefer that naming sense over naming something in like an alien language that is extremely difficult to pronounce and very hard to remember. Like, there's already so much going on that I have to keep track of. I don't want to add the burden of just trying to remember something's name.
Anyways, let's go to why I think they'd fit into 40k. First off, a pretty goddamn diverse amount of races. Tau think they have some good inclusion rates, but they don't have shit on the Covenant. You've got the elites, brutes, drones, grunts, hunters, prophets, jackals, and all the other flavors of jackal, engineers to fix your shit right up. Got a highly varied set of units to play if you were to put these guys on the tabletop. Grunts are the perfect line holders.
I guess I'm just not very familiar with all the varieties of Tau that you can deploy. I guess just the most iconic would be the Tau themselves plus their mechs, and maybe a few models of other aliens that, I guess like the Kroot. At least I know about them, but they say that there's many different aliens under them, but I just haven't seen them.
Move over, Imperial Guard. It's lore accurate to say they breed like rabbits, too. In fact, they're basically a middle ground between humanity and the orcs in terms of how quickly they fuck. And they're armed with some pretty powerful weapons for what they are. Whoever you are, you're gonna feel a fuel rod cannon to the face. As for the next unit, if you've played Halo 2 on Legendary, then you already know what the Boulevard of Jackal Snipers is capable of. Galaxy's finest marksmen, these rat bastards. They've also got some cool energy hoplite shields for when you really need to get up close, so that's a nice bit of extra protection. Drones are great for making Master Chief want to kill himself, and they'd be great at that in a tabletop setting too. Some units with the fly keyword that would be great at harassing enemies. In fact, I think I just described swooping hawks, but buggier. You want something dead? You want that something to be a tank? These motherfuckers mean business. You do not want to be caught in front of one of them. You think you're safe from their fists, and then it shoots a plasma beam at you for 10 seconds straight. You think, alright.
Inevitably, we will stream Halo. Like, I do have the Master Chief collection, and Kiwi was wanting to do that with me. I don't know if you can go through all the campaigns in co-op, but if you can, I think that would be really, really fun. Or, you know, it's not like local co-op. Is there online co-op? I hope there is. But, like, learning about them in the lore videos is cool. I honestly have no idea how I'd be able to deal with these in-game. Because, like, FPS games and honestly any kind of real-time action games are not my forte, let's say. Like, it's the exact opposite of what I usually play, being a much more turn-based strategy gamer. So I often find myself thinking, oh boy, this is gonna be an issue once I face off against them.
Right, maybe I'll outrun it and then it lunges 50 feet like it has the commando perk before smearing you across 3 dimensions. And of course they come in pairs, and yes, when one dies the other goes Super Saiyan. They're like the Hulk if the Hulk was made out of worms. But maybe you don't want the biological tank that is the hunter. Maybe you want the hairy orc that is the brute, able to take a hit and keep on going with nothing more than the power of monkey. I mean, if you've played Halo, they need no further explanation. Fuck, with the name Brute, they require no more explanation. They smack people good and hard, and can take a smacking good and hard. And a gravity hammer is basically just a cooler thunder hammer anyway, so hey, they can already fit in perfectly. But maybe none of that's for you, and you want someone with some actual brains. Not a coward wearing a sailboat or a roided out chimpanzee, but a bona fide strategic mastermind, brave as all can be and with a brawn to back it up. Well, the Covenant still has you covered with the elites. Just ask the coolest cutscene in video games to date.
Shipmaster, they outnumber us 3-1.
Then it is an even fight.
Fucking love that cutscene. Master warriors, master strategists, and masters that given some wild head. Plus, they have their own unique honor.
Bro. That is not something I want to imagine. Actually, if I remember correctly, they had to send like hundreds of elites, like the best of the elites, in order to take out our guy at the end of Halo Reach, which is pretty insane considering that he was also a Spartan 3. I misspoke and called him a Spartan 2 in that video, but yeah. That man did not go down without a fight.
Code to honor valiant warriors and respect a worthy foe, which helps them fit into Warhammer while also having a better honor code than Warhammer ones, because they aren't fucking stupid. The elites see, remember that killing an enemy who can't see you instead of charging at him from a mile away screaming isn't dishonorable, it's just smart. Mentioning no coordinates. You've got the prophets and their fancy floating chairs too, can't forget them. Maybe not great in a fight, but they could certainly provide some morale and other kinds.
Oh my god. I just noticed the little, like, dangly skin things on their chin, like, why? I feel kind of sorry for them, but then I remember that they also kind of hide the truth from their own people, in a way. So then I say, fuck them. And I think I saw a shot of Master Chief just on the Prophet's chair, just putting the absolute beatdown on the guy. So I'm actually kind of excited for that.
Kind of bonuses to their troops on the battlefield. And finally, for the last of the races that matter, we have the engineers. You know how Eldar bone singers just play some tunes and that Wraith Knight is magically healed? That's engineers, but they don't use prissy elf magic. They use their tentacle hentai arms. And they do it in seconds. Literally the perfect support unit, because if they get under attack, they can just float away. Like, alright bro, I'ma head out. Sure, they themselves can't attack, but when the Scarab you brought down to 1 wound has full health all of a sudden, that's not gonna matter much, is it? Think it's just infantry they can square up with? Nope. They got vehicles. You want light vehicles? They're almost all skimmers, zoom across the battlefield like an Eldar. You want heavier stuff? A Locust isn't that far off from a...
Actually, the skimmer does kind of look similar to some Eldar vehicles that I remember looking at from the tabletop.
Especially in terms of size. You might think that the Covenant has no answer for when the Titans start shooting, and that's where you're stupid and wrong and I hate you. Look at the Scarab. And so you know I'm not making it up, here's the size comparison between the Warlord, Warhound, and Scarab. Yeah, fuck you, Imperial bitches. And they can make more Scarabs anytime they want, since it's not made by technology impossible to recreate. It's made by worms. As for their spaceships, let's run a comparison. The Apocalypse class battle.
Honestly, that might be one of their biggest advantages. I don't know if it would be enough of an advantage, but just the fact that they can still produce their weapons, whereas most Warhammer 40k factions are running on just, I guess, forgotten technology. It's certainly not going to be pretty in a war of attrition, and all I can really imagine them doing is trying to wipe them out as quickly and fastly as possible. The Covenant, I mean, if there were to be some sort of theoretical fight between the two universes. Now that I think about it though, what exactly would be the answer to, like, say, a Psyker versus the Covenant? I don't think the Covenant has magic space powers, do they? Or at least not to the degree that it's present in Warhammer 40k.
Battleship is roughly 12 kilometers long. The CSO Super Carrier is 29 kilometers long. Groovy. Want a bit smaller? Well, the CAS Carrier is only 5 kilometers long, but it carries up to 40,000 troops. Not crew. Troops. It's also armed to the fucking teeth and has energy shields. Smaller Covenant spacecraft are still fearsome and are, of course, armed with ubiquitous energy shields and plasma weapons. I could go on about the various weapons and shit they have, and believe me, there's a lot to go over, but you get the idea. I wanted to give everyone an idea for all the stuff they could have access to if they were given a position in Warhammer Tabletop somehow. Or indeed if that Halo Tabletop game wasn't shelled, but that's its own problem. There's one thing I want to address before I get on with the rest of the video. Their technology as a whole and what it's capable of doing. A lot of Warhammer fans have this opinion. Warhammer wins against other universes because it's Warhammer. I hate that opinion. When someone says it wins because it's 40k, I want to crush them for heresy. Their heresy against the Great Journey, that is.
So, I guess I can kind of understand that, and really just the perspective of a series that you enjoy immensely, and so you kind of have that bias towards it. Like, yeah, I get it. But after learning about some other sci-fi universes, there is some really crazy shit out there that I never thought was even possible before. But now that I know that they exist, I don't think we should challenge them with the current level of technology that we have. Honestly, in both Halo as well as in 40k. I'm pretty sure the Zeely sequence would just blow the both of them out of the water if not something else that's even stronger and stranger than the Zeely sequence.
It was heresy.
In addition to that, the Halo games honestly sell the Covenant short in terms of their tech. In the games, a grunt shoots you with the plasma pistol and you go, come here you little fucker, and turn him into a corpse. In the lore, a grunt shoots a marine with the plasma pistol and his torso melts off. The Covenant's level of technology is absolutely apeshit, but you wouldn't know that just playing the game. Every single one of their infantry has the option to grab a plasma weapon and go. You know, plasma, the thing in 40k that's close to the top tier of weaponry. Nearly all of the Covenant's weapons are plasma, and unlike 40k plasma weapons, it isn't a literal roll of the dice on whether or not it's going to blow up. In Halo, when a plasma weapon overheats, you burn your hand, go, oh fuck, and then it cools down. In 40k, when a plasma weapon overheats, it takes the operator and everyone in a 10-foot radius with it. Whoopsie daisy. I'm pretty sure it's possible to overheat a Covenant weapon like that, but it'd be on purpose. You can bring up individual weapons that are more advanced than what the Covenant has, and you'd be right. There are certain weapons that can out-tech what the Covenant has. I mean, the Prophets never played Pokemon with God, for one. But compare the humble lasgun to faction-wide plasma weaponry, and hopefully you'll begin to see why I think the Covenant can stand proud in 40k. You might wonder that they're so advanced, how come they didn't win in the Halo universe? And the answer to that is, they were winning, and nearly did. The Master Chief wasn't fucking around on an alien megastructure in Halo 3 because he thought it'd be fun. He was doing it because it was a Hail Mary to stop the Covenant from wiping humanity out. Almost every engagement that you would see beyond the scale of some—
Looking at the grand picture of things, the Covenant was winning. And the only person who single-handedly turned the tide of that war was Master Chief, who had to go above and beyond in order to give humanity a fighting chance. Like, the tech, as well as the Spartans that humanity had, wasn't bad. It was just the overwhelming power that they had to fight against. And thinking about it, I suppose it very much helped when there was the Covenant faction by, I think it was the Arbiter, that kind of split off, and there was some sort of a civil war going on between them. Because if that didn't happen, then maybe things would have turned out differently in Halo. Thankfully, the religion, as well as their whole motivation, was kind of built on a false pretense.
Some ODSTs versus a squad of brutes was a loss for humanity and a win for the Covenant. Hell, Reach makes two things abundantly clear from the start. The planet is the largest and most defended one in human space beyond even Earth, and it's doomed to fall the moment it's discovered.
Slipspace rupture detected.
Yeah, we're picking up anomalies too. Are you reading it?
Yep.
Multiple Covenant signatures.
Slipspace rupture detected.
They're everywhere.
Slipspace rupture detected.
40% of all of the UNSC's Navy was deployed to Reach, and they still lost. It's not like 40k where the writers tell us the Imperium is fighting a losing.
I thought it was 60%, but I could just be misremembering it. You know, thinking about the size of the Covenant army, I don't think that was even like the majority of their army. That was probably just like not even 20 or 30% of their army. There was also that other shot where you had this giant ship on humanity's side just helping to absolutely annihilate some aliens on the planet. But then you have like a Covenant ship that's like 3 or 4 times bigger than that, just absolutely destroying it with one hit. Just to really rub it in humanity's face that you don't stand a chance.
Losing war, and then every battle we see they effortlessly stomp. The UNSC actually was about to lose and humanity was going to perish. It's almost like we never see what Covenant weapons can truly do because they're up against a version of humanity that can't hope to stop them. Sure, the Covenant probably wouldn't be able to stand to Dark Age of technology stuff or the pre-fall Eldar, but you can't count that because it doesn't exist in any meaningful way anymore. They don't have the ability to make that shit any longer. Plus, there's—
I think it would be kind of interesting, though, to take that sort of age of technology and compare it to other sci-fi universes, because from my understanding, all the stuff that you had back before everything went to shit was incredible. Like, you had things that could very easily terraform planets or blow up, stars. And I don't think there's any stories or games set during that time because it's not really what Warhammer 40k is about. I just think it would be interesting, though.
There's intentionally not enough information about the period to say for sure exactly what humanity had beyond really advanced tech guys for real. So saying that 40k wins because everyone used to have really cool things in the setting isn't an argument. It's a cop-out in the same vein as someone using an everything-proof shield during recess. On the topic of things that aren't me complaining, let's talk about slipspace. It'll be quick so I don't bore you to death with the specifics of pretend space travel. Covenant slipspace isn't as fast as warp travel can be. That being said, it's infinitely more reliable. The warp—
I think there are, well, honestly, in most sci-fi universes, the FTL is just way more reliable than in 40k, because you don't have to worry about chaos demons raiding your ship, or, you getting completely mutated into something inhuman, or arriving at a planet that is a galaxy or two away from where you intended to be at in like 20,000 years in the future. It's not the greatest, but it exists and they kind of have to use it.
Can take you across the galaxy in minutes, or you can arrive at your destination 1,000 years too late, or 1,000 too early, or you arrive and everyone in the vessel has aged to death, or been replaced by demons because you aren't just traveling through another dimension, you're traveling through hell. To be fair, Imperial warp travel is reliable. It's not as memey as the fanbase often makes it out to be, but that doesn't change the fact that things regularly go wrong and
things
shit arrives late all the time. I could repeat this wiki article word for word, but I'll just let you read it. The short of it is that when you have all of these flaws in your FTL travel, something is going wrong. By contrast, while Covenant slip space isn't as fast as warp travel at its fastest, it's still pretty goddamn speedy. The speed they have is roughly 912 light years per day in slip space. That's pretty much instant between systems that are next to each other. So the Covenant could show up over an Agri world one day, glass it, then invade the Forge world the next sector over. Also, when something goes wrong in slip space, a single person disappears or you feel sick for a few days. When something goes wrong in the warp, the Dark Gods eat the soul of everyone involved. And because of how reliably made it is, these slip space problems almost never happen on Covenant ships, only the shit-tastic UNSC ones. Also, warp drive.
I don't think this was the only instance where we used the slip space drive to blow up a ship, right? There was another one. I think it was during one of the earlier games, and then those guys ended up showing up in Halo Wars, right? It certainly seems to be a extremely effective way to destroy something when there isn't any heavy weaponry around anymore.
Drives need to reach a certain distance away from any major celestial bodies in a system, or to put it in academic terms, shit's about to get fucky. Souls taken, ships exploded, planets corrupted, that kind of fun stuff. Covenant slipspace drives, meanwhile, can jump mid-atmosphere and only cause damage to the surrounding city. In fact, the only reason they don't do this more often is that the reverse engineered tech is so advanced they don't know they can do it. They still appear directly over planets pretty frequently though, so on top of powerful weaponry, their ships also have an amount of mobility that 40k ships really can't match. Maybe Eldar ships? And I guess the orcs don't really give a shit about space OSHA protocols, so them as well. So I've talked about why I think they're equal in 40k long enough. How would they act when put in this shitstorm of a galaxy? Well, first of all, I don't think it'd be hard to put them in 40k. Honestly, not really. Just a little bit of retconning and presto, they're located in some isolated corner of the galaxy.
Yeah, just a little bit of retconning, nothing new in the Warhammer universe. Honestly, just having them randomly show up from the deep, dark expanse of space, possibly from a direction that the Tyranids haven't been in, would kind of fit. Like, it's been done before, right? And, I mean, there are plenty of Xenos races that we never go into detail of that we know exist. So this could be one of them. Just somewhere out there that the Imperium hasn't made contact with yet.
And only discovered humanity sometime in the late 30,000s. Maybe an Imperial Guard force responds to some planets losing contact before they themselves go dark, and the few surviving transmissions show a variety of strange aliens working in unison to take down the Guard. Then comes the official announcement.
For your destruction is the will of the gods, and I am their instrument.
After that, human world after human world starts going dark. Of course, this isn't a war the Covenant can win. Despite being able to fight on even footing with the Imperium, they can't produce on an even footing with the Imperium. It's too big. Casualties will be enormous, but...
Oh yeah. This is pretty much Skaven tactics. The Imperium might not have the most highest grade of technology, or even the best soldiers, but even the littlest guys can pack quite a punch and do a fair bit of damage, and multiply that by like 100. Then you got yourself an issue.
But the Covenant will be fought to a standstill. That being said, like many enemies in 40k, the Imperium will be unable to finish them off as they're surrounded on all sides. They don't have nearly enough industry to fight the Imperium on even ground, but in the stalemate that is 40k setting, they can certainly hold them off. The sides would enter a cold war that occasionally turns hot, with the Covenant seeing humanity as once again desecrating the gifts their gods left behind. You know, with their dirty human footsteps. Only this time they'd be even more furious, because instead of just studying Forerunner artifacts, humanity would actively destroy it for being Xeno's garbage. On top of Mechanicus, of course, studying anything Forerunner they find.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, depending on what you do with the lore, they might even especially hate the Space Marines, seeing them as humanity's latest iteration of the demons they fought millennia ago. Psychers will be their greatest weakness. At first, they won't have a goddamn clue as to what's going on, and even when they figure it out, they won't have much to do beyond shoot the guy making lightning come out of his crotch, which, to be fair, is an effective strategy, but it'll still be rough going for the poor grunt caught in a smite. As for the other factions, it varies. Covenant would despise.
Yeah, I mean, there it is, right? We don't have anything to fight against the Psychers. They'd probably have to develop some kind of new technology and maybe try to understand the warp. I wonder how well they'd hold up against Chaos Corruption. Probably not too great. Although, I guess there isn't really a point of reference for that or anything similar to that in the Halo universe.
It's chaos, a religion that isn't worshipping the Forerunners, combined with the fact it's mostly humans. Class and 8 Chaos fleets on site, please and thank you. Plus, these humans are worshipping literal demons, so it's not like they need the encouragement. While some Covenant members might join Chaos for a variety of reasons, like grunts defecting to Nurgle for a better life, or brutes to Khorne because big stupid smash god make monkey brain happy, most would likely stay in the path of the Great Journey and combat Chaos. Siege and Nurgle in particular would be on an avoid at all cost list between plagues and magic. The Tau would be ignored. Probably. First contact, if they did reach each other, would probably go something like, you join the Covenant. No, you join the greater good. And then there'd be a fight, and the Covenant would decide the blueberries aren't worth the effort. Though if they did decide it's worth the effort, 1,000 warships and an attack moon showing up over the Tau capital would probably change their mind on incorporating the Covenant pretty quickly. You know, before they're glassed off the face of the galaxy. In fact, speaking of the Tau, the Covenant would probably be the nicest race in 40k in this scenario, which is so fucking weird to think about, but it's true. Their hate boner is reserved for humanity. As long as they worship the Forerunners, they'd probably welcome any other client races, and honestly, all those miscellaneous creatures in 40k that don't have an army list might end up joining them, if only for protection from the Imperium. They fight the Orcs, which is a revelation, I know. Plasma weapons help keep the Orc spores from spreading, so that would be in the Covenant's favor, but expect them to constantly be under siege as the Orcs realize those airy gits and split-jaw boys put up a proper fight.
The Orcs are an unstoppable tide. No matter how much weaponry you have. It just never ends.
Eldar would probably be neutral with them, with the occasional spout of hostility when the Covenant land on a maiden world and BL Tan gets its panties in a twist over it. Of course, the Eldar would most likely stick to indirect methods of warfare since they don't have enough of a tech advantage to outright smash the Covenant, and certainly not enough numbers to wear them down. Psychers once again will play a huge role in combating them. Dark Eldar would occasionally raid them for supplies and torture slaves, but as with every other faction, they wouldn't cause enough of a problem to warrant focusing the Covenant's full attention on them. Not that it'd help if they did decide to do that, given that Kamara is the most compact and defended shithole in the universe. Covenant might even hire some Corsairs for a while if they can convince the massively arrogant Eldar to help for a bit. Unlikely, but not impossible. The Exodites would get the short end of the...
They would probably trick the Covenant or attempt to do so. Because there was already that situation with a Tau where they had enlisted help from them, but you know, they were a new race and they didn't really know what the Dark Eldar were up to, and they sent some people over to their side and they came back as something completely different. Yeah, don't trust the Dark Eldar. The Covenant might fall for that for the first time, but after that, I think they'd get the picture.
The stick like usual. The first few maiden worlds would probably put up a fight until the Covenant learned it isn't worth the effort and it's best to just glass them off the face of existence or turn around and find another planet to bother. And I have no idea what the Harlequins would do. Maybe capture some brutes and put them in a circus or something. The Necrons would have an advantage here. With both races lacking psychic powers, the much more advanced tech the Space Tomb Kings have will grant them victory often. That being said, any recently awakened or unawakened tomb worlds that are discovered would be glassed before they could get ready, and plasma weapons are still plenty capable of hurting the Necrons before anyone forgets that fact. I know I sound like a broken record with the plasma weapons, but it's important to emphasize, and I like saying the word plasma, so I'm gonna keep doing it anyways. The Tyranids would probably be on their hit list too, because it's very likely they'd see how similar they are to the Flood and freak the absolute.
Yeah, exactly. They are quite similar, although I feel like the Flood was even more deadly. The Tyranids are pretty much everyone's enemy. Like, nobody wants them here. Just like bugs in your house. Like, come on, man. We got other problems to deal with, but no.
Fuck out. They'd be more than willing to scour any Tyranid-infested worlds clear.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Can destroy a species. Were it not for the Arbiter's Council, I would have glassed your entire planet.
But unlike any other faction in 40k, because they use slip space, they don't need to fear the shadow of the warp. Expect them to be pretty effective at dealing with Tyranids because of this advantage. Of course,
Oh, you know what? That's true. Because one of the advantages of the Tyranids was that they could completely cut off a planet from being able to contact help from any neighbors because they had to, like, you know, send messages through the warp, and then they can just say no to that because obviously they can do that. Or even if you were aware of it, you wouldn't be able to travel to help those planets in the first place because you just get cut off from it. But that wouldn't be the case with slip space, unless if the Tyranids develop some sort of mutation or evolution to combat that as well, which is honestly likely, but it would take them some time, or at least you would hope so.
The Tyranids are still gonna vor plenty of Covenant worlds, expecting to get curses against the parasite often. To end the video, I'm gonna say something that's gonna make a lot of people shit a brick. I think Space Marines, depending on the chapter, would get shit stomped by the Covenant. Now before you mail me a pipe bomb covered in cum, hear me out. I've talked about plasma weapons enough here, I won't repeat myself. But the thing is, a lot of Space Marine chapters don't fight in a way that would help them against the Covenant. They're obsessed with honor and closing the gap to fight in melee.
Oh, this makes me think of the Emperor TTS episode where we were talking about the Tau, and the Emperor was like, yeah, I mean, they're an upcoming Xenos race, but, you know, as long as they abide within the regulations that we set up for them, then we're cool. And then Kidden was like, but sir, they don't fight in melee. And that was all he needed to hear to condemn them to death. The way the Space Marines fight, it's pretty cool. Like, it's very action-filled, and it's very satisfying. And honestly, I can't wait to get my hands on Space Marine 2, and I hope to dear God that it's a good game. Because the first Space Marine was a very, extremely memorable experience. One that I enjoyed immensely, except for maybe the last boss fight, but it is what it is. But in terms of actual warfare and tactics, it might not be the best way to go about it. Pancreas did say like certain Space Marine chapters, so it very likely depends on the commander and how they want to go about it. If their commander is extremely, I guess, religious, or believes that there is only honor in melee combat, then we might have an issue. I don't know how well Space Marine armor would hold up against plasma weapons, but I feel like they could probably shoot through it.
Meanwhile, I think the Covenant has powerful enough weapons to take them down before they do so. The elites, like I said, are also obsessed with honor, but that honor isn't brain dead. They'll use stealth technology and any possible advantage to get the drop on the Space Marines. You might say a sudden rapid assault like drop pods is the answer, but keep two things in mind. A, the Covenant is able to shoot these drop pods down, they've done it before in the Halo games, and B, the Covenant use them too, often. They also have experience fighting the UNSC, who uses them as well, so they know how to fight back against them. So the Space Wolves or Blood Angels will deep strike in and hope to get the drop on the Covenant, only for them to get mowed down by two grunts on a plasma turret and a group of elites that drop behind them armed with energy swords and fuel rod guns. Of course, this isn't across the board, I'm just trying to point out that I don't think it'd be as simple as Space Marines beat Covenant. Big surprise.
It's not a formula. There's certainly a lot more nuance that has to go into these strategies that the Space Marines need to develop in order to face off against the Covenant, who fight in a very different manner than what they're normally used to fighting against. Once again, certainly depends on the commander and how good they are at adapting.
The Spartans didn't beat the Covenant by outflexing them. They used their superior wit and ability as the ultimate special ops unit that just happens to consist of demigods to outfight the Covenant every turn, and even then they still took casualties often. Go play Halo on one of the higher difficulties and directly run into every turret you find for how that would work out for the Space Marines.
Yeah. Still,
certain chapters like the Ultramarines with their adaptability would be able to stand their ground very well. And honestly, I think chapters like the Raven Guard would be the most feared because of how close they act to the demons the Covenant is used to facing. And the melee chapters would still bloody them. I just don't think it's a war of attrition they can win. And of course, a bolter is still a grenade launcher assault rifle. It's gonna hurt whoever it hits. Once again, the Covenant will view humanity's super soldiers as demons to be feared, but demons to be slaughtered nonetheless. So that's why I think the Covenant would be a great faction in 40k. Will it ever happen? No, of course not.
Probably
officially,
not,
anyways. There is, however, actually a fan codex for the Covenant. In between third-party models and the Dead Halo war game, it isn't impossible to find some minis for them. Either way, I hope you had fun with part 1 of this miniseries. The Covenant, like I said, can't stop the 40k galaxy. Not even close. Let's see if the Forerunners can do better.
Let's see.
Master Chief could take a Space Marine on a fight. Fuck you, fight me on it.
I mean, he probably could. I simply just don't know enough about the inner workings of both, you know, what goes behind Master Chief and what goes behind the making of Space Marine. And honestly, different Space Marines would have different specialties and different skill sets. And it's just, There's a lot going on there, but I do think it would be a very interesting fight nonetheless. But regardless, that was awesome, and it was really, really cool to kind of see this clashing of the two series. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope y'all enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.